Hello, everyone, and welcome to this stream for July 4th, 2015, and happy Independence Day to all of my fellow Americans. So, for the next few minutes, we're going to go ahead and do a new Q&A based on the questions that you guys submitted on the website. So let's get started. The first one is from the Driz T Man, and he asks, how much detail effort was put into the Grand Canyon area of the NTTR map? Very, very little. As mentioned, I think earlier, while the interior of the map has high to medium level details, the outside of the map is much, much lower detail. In particular, the Grand Canyon area, I believe it's as low resolution as 64 meters per pixel. So the detail on that area of the map is very, very low resolution. And again, these parts of the map are not designed to put missions over and fly through the canyon. It's more of a in the distance type of buffer between the primary flight area and the edge of the map. So yeah, you're perfectly welcome to fly around the canyon and zip around the Colorado River at the bottom of it, but I really wouldn't have any high expectations for a lot of detail on that. Now, sure, it's quite possible in the future we may, choose to update those areas with higher detail, but at least for the release version, again, keep your expectations very low because that area of the map is not intended to have any kind of higher level detail. So for the second question, it comes from Wenzo Theater, and he asks, increased visibility scaling options work on ground units? They absolutely do. So with the scaling options, not scaling option, but the increased model visibility set to particularly say the enlarged, you can really spot a ground unit from quite a ways away, much further than you really actually would realistically be able to. But if that kind of floats your boat to be really have the ability to spot those ground units from quite a ways out, then that's certainly an option for you if you want to pursue that. The increased visibility for the units was more focused on the aircraft, but yeah, it'll also work for the ground units as well. So the next comes from Flag Room. He asked, will the K50 module contain ABRIS map data with the new theaters like NTTR and the SOH? It will. So actually, there's two different types of maps that can be on the moving map display. For aircraft like the K50, the map is actually based on the topographic map that's actually generated in the world, be it the height map, the textures, and so on. So it's very simple for us actually to create the movie map using that from any theater. It's just based on game assets. The movie map for other aircraft, say in particular the A-10C, or when we do the Hornet, instead of the map being based on game assets, it's instead actually based on different types of air navigation maps, TPCs, ONCs, jogs, and so on. So for the Caucasus map, we have all those charts, actually most of the charts. For the ones you don't, that's why you get those black areas. But for the Nevada map, we've actually ordered a complete set of all the different air nav maps for that entire area, anywhere from TPCs, ONCs, jogs, I think everything in between. And actually, we're in the process now of integrating those into the map itself. So when you're flying your A-10C around, you'll actually have those actual, no kidding, air nav maps on the TAD display. And we also plan to do the same with the Straits of Hormuz map. Unfortunately, getting the air navigation charts for that area is proving a lot more difficult and a hell of a lot more expensive. So we're actually still working on that one. So the third question comes from Spiken. He asks, which are the main reasons for not releasing both DCS World 2 and the NTTR map right now? So the basic primary ones include we still have a fair amount of crashes. And the last thing we want to do is even for a alpha release of having the software crash left and right on you guys. And the second half of that is in many cases related is the optimization. We want to really, as much as possible, have the map working at a optimization level much superior to what we have in DCS World 1, even with much greater detail, textures, objects, number of objects, and so on. We really want to increase the frame rates, even with much higher objects, textures, and so on within the game. And that's just taking time. The second big one is actually the static objects. Some of the static objects still have no textures. For example, like a FARP has no textures on it right now, so it just looks horrible. And there's other objects as well, warehouses and things like that. And there's also other issues with static objects not having damage models or not being visible. So we're still working on those. Another big one is the ground object routing. So right now, when you put ground objects on a map, the road follow is not working. So we need to get that working, of course, because without that, it's going to break a lot of missions when people create them. The next really big one is the networking, which is actually divided between the new GUI system, which we're still working on, but also, again, trying to increase the efficiency and the playability of the networking system in DCS World 2. And the last big one is the ATC system. Not just having the new system in there, but even the old one is actually not functioning right now. So in essence, right now, there is really no functional ATC in DCS World 2 NTTR map. So when we release it, again, even as alpha, we want to have at least some type of ATC working. So those are probably the big 5 areas that we're still working on right now that we'd like to get resolved before we put it out into the world. So the next one is from MWD2, and he asks, will the red flag campaign come with the NTTR for free or a pay DLC? Uh, the two we're working on right now are an F-15C campaign and an A-10C campaign, and both of those will definitely be payware. We're putting a lot of work into these. We're actually working with the author Steve Davies on these, so these will be payware campaigns that you'll buy. And for those, you'll need to have uh, for the A10C, obviously the ATC module, and you also have to have the campaign. And for the F15C campaign, you'll have to have either Flame Eclipse 3 or the separate F15C, and of course the NTTR map. In addition to those maps, we are working some preliminary additional campaigns, and we're also slowly opening up the ability for third parties to do good quality campaign work to create and sell their campaigns within DCS World 2. And we've actually made some good headway on that recently. And it's my hope and expectation that after DCS World 2 and the NTTR map are out there, that we'll start seeing some really good third-party campaigns for the NTTR that will probably be payware. But of course, it's up to the designers of those campaigns to make them payware or freeware. We leave that up to them. So the next is from Setaway, and he asks, when operating around McCarran Airport, will it be possible to interact with civilian ATC to take off and land? The primary focus of the Nevada map is the NTTR and military operations within the NTTR. So while we have McCarran in there, while it's possible later on down the road, when we have resources freed up, we may possibly add civilian random traffic as we do with the rail and road traffic. Right now, it's an incredibly low priority, mainly because this obviously involves the AI, and I can probably think of 100 much higher priority AI issues than this at this point. So again, it's possible in the future, but right now it's just a very, very low priority because it really would have very little impact on actual gameplay for most of the missions and campaigns that would be designed for that map. So the next is from Copy Paper. Copy Paper asks, will the random mission generator work in Nevada? Actually, it does not right now. It's actually one of the other items that we need to get cleared up before we can release the alpha. But naturally, it is something we will get working to put as part of the Nevada map. So that will be coming. The next is from Who GX5, and he asks, will there be taxi signs at airports so you don't have to guess your way to the runway? Actually, I think several of the runways, even in the current map in the Caucasus, have uh, taxiway signs, but all of the new airports in the Nevada map definitely will. The next comes from Boomerang 10. He asks, will DCS2 have functional field arresting gear at appropriate airfields to assist with tailhook equipment, aircraft experience, directional control, or braking issues? No, at least not right now. Again, a big part of product development is setting your priorities. And again, it's one of those things, kind of like we mentioned earlier with the civilian air AI traffic. It would be nice to have, and it's something that we hope to do someday, but the overall impact on gameplay is much lower than dozens of other items that we want to do that have much, much higher priority. So again, I wouldn't expect it, don't expect to see it in the alpha or probably even the beta, but perhaps at a later point when assets free up and it moves up in that priority list, yeah, perhaps we could do it then. Okay. So the next comes from, I think it's the last one, from Blues. And he asks, will it be possible to add an airfield to the NTTR map the same way we can add FARP or helipad now? Short answer is no. It's not as simple as just throwing down an object. When you put down an airfield, there has to be all the different routing from the taxiways to the runway, from the runway to the taxiways during the landing, setting up the AI to understand the takeoff and landing patterns. It's much more complex than, again, throwing down a FARP. Plus the whole larger issue of the object construction of that airfield. So again, I guess theoretically it's possible that someday in the future we might be able to do that, but for something like that, honestly, I wouldn't probably expect that to see until maybe like a DCS World 3 at this point. So anyhow, so those are the 10 questions for today's Q&A. And again, if you have additional questions, feel free to post it up on our forums, and hopefully I can get to them the next time. Oh, but speaking of next time, next weekend, I'm actually going to be tied up with some personal tasks. So there's a good chance I'm not going to be able to do a stream and Q&A next weekend, but I'll surely be able to do it the weekend after that. So I apologize for that little break. But I think as mentioned before, I'm actually doing these on my own time on the weekends. And sometimes the personal life gets in the way of these, and that will be the case this upcoming weekend. So anyhow, I think that wraps up this, and I'll go ahead and actually restart the stream in about 16 minutes from now, and we'll go ahead and we'll start the actual in-game stream at that point, and I'll see you guys then.